Hey, Richard here, Tennis Hacker. In this video, I want to help you with the quality and consistency of your cross-court one-handed backhand rally ball. Really important that you've got a stable, solid backhand that you can get back cross-court, because if you don't, if you drop the ball a little bit short, your backhand's weak, your opponent is going to start to pick on it and punish you, and when they recognize it, they're just going to play and use that pattern over and over again. So it is a really important stroke that you need to develop. So what I'm going to do in this video is help you address some of the most common problems that might be causing issues with your one-handed backhand and causing it to be a little bit too weak. I hope you find the video helpful. If you do, it'd be great if you give me a thumbs up, and if you haven't already subscribed to my channel, I'd really appreciate it if you could do that as well. So the first issue that we've got to address is going to be late preparation, because obviously if you're not prepared soon enough, you're not ready and set up in the right position, your chances of hitting a good quality single-hander go down dramatically. Obviously at lower levels, the ball's bouncing on your side of the service line. At higher levels, we're talking about hundredths of a second, the difference between being on the back foot and the difference between stepping in and hitting a good quality shot. But when it comes to late preparation, there's really only a couple of things that can be going on. High levels, this bit doesn't apply to, but for most lower level players, they're just not using a split step. It's either not a good quality, well, no split step at all, not a good quality split step, or the timing is off. So I've got another video that's going to go into a lot more detail than this. I'll place it down in the description, but you want to be landing with a nice wide stable base on the balls of your foot, neutral pelvis, nice and balanced so you can react and move quickly in either direction. You want to be landing just after your opponent makes contact with it, so then you can use the elastic and react more quickly. And when you develop the ability to do that, it can literally save half a second. That's why all top players use a split step on every ball. Potentially it might take you a while to work on that and work on the conditioning in order to be able to do it, but it's such an important piece of preparing quickly. The second thing though is something you might not have heard of or thought about before, and that is your ability to react is basically dependent on how quickly you can read where the ball's going. So the reason that people aren't preparing until it bounces on their side of the net is because they're sitting there waiting for their visual system to figure it out, and they're like, okay, right, now, there. And that's why you're late to move. So that's something that happens for a lot of players. The visual requirements in predicting where the ball's going are insane. For higher levels, this applies to you as well. And this is the difference between, as you move up through the levels, can you handle the speed of the ball? If someone's hitting a 60, 70 mile an hour ground stroke at you, can you actually react quickly enough to set up in the right position for that shot? In terms of improving the visual side of things, there is so much you can do. I'll talk about some of it later on, but right now I just want to mention a video that I've got on YouTube that's going to show you a really cool vision drill that you can use to kind of work and improve on this visual side of things. But that's the first part. Improving your preparation generally comes down to awareness, practicing it on court, trying to get the timing, and then working on the technique of the split step, and then you improve the visual processing alongside that and do both of them together. Now you're going to be much faster to prepare. The next problem we've got to solve is going to be the movement to the ball and setting up in the right position. So in terms of the end position, we're thinking about not being too far away, so we're not reaching, not being too close, so we're getting jammed. You've got to be the right distance from the ball. Obviously, in terms of the spacing, it can be really challenging because the ball is coming across you, and you've got to be able to kind of read it coming across and predict where it's going to be and how much you need to move over. So again, the visual side of things is going to be important. I've actually got another video that you might like. It's going to show you some vision assessments for different things that might be going on that create problems with your difficulty of getting spacing. So I'll leave that down below. But then we've just got the generalized footwork and movement to the ball on the one-hander. It is so important. With a slice, you can kind of dig it out from anywhere. If you've got a two-hander, you've got that left hand, you can kind of flick it and you can just do whatever you need to. You don't have that option with the one-hander. You have to have fantastic footwork. If the ball's coming deep, you have to be able to move backwards quickly. If the ball's out wide, you have to be able to cover the ground quickly. If it's a short ball, you have to recognize it, step in, and again, it is going to be about your footwork and movement to the ball. If you don't have good footwork to the ball, your spacing is going to be off, the position is going to be tricky, and you're going to be sending your opponent a weak ball. So in terms of sorting out the spacing, obviously if you're preparing sooner, that's going to help, but then it's probably about spending time working on the footwork and the footwork patterns, because most players completely neglect it. They go out there, they hit balls, and they just expect that you're going to be able to do it. Tennis movements, tennis footwork is really unusual. Unless you've worked on it, you're just not going to suddenly be able to do it when the ball's flying at you. So I've got a video that's really going to help you with the footwork and movement side of things. It's going to make a huge difference if you work on this in terms of helping you set up in the right position. So I'll place that link in the description as well. And then obviously we've got the on-court practice. You improve the visual system, you improve the footwork, and then you just deliberately practice thinking about your spacing until it's kind of more of a habitual thing. And that's how we kind of solve the issue with not being set up the right distance from the ball. The next problem that you're probably going to have to address is going to be your timing, because a lot of players struggle with hitting the ball late on the one-hander, and it simply doesn't allow you to get leverage over the ball. Timing is, it's the biggest deciding factor at all levels, but on the one-hander it's more important than any other stroke. On the forehander you can bail yourself out with muscle, can on the backhand, can on the slice, but not the single-hander. So timing is absolutely critical. Now potentially some of the things that we've already talked about might have solved your problem, because if you were late to prepare and that's why you were hitting the ball late, we've got to fix that part first. But other than that, something you can think about is potentially just being a little bit lighter on your toes. We drive through the back hip to initiate the swing, and a lot of players have a tendency to kind of think about their arms, and that causes them to arm it and muscle it. So just being a little bit lighter on your toes and just thinking about initiating from the hips, that can really help. But then we've also kind of got two deeper level problems, and that's going to be your visual processing, your ability to predict and read when and where the ball is going to arrive, because if you can't predict when it's going to arrive, it's really hard to start your swing at the right time. And if you can't predict where it's going to arrive, it's really hard to adjust your swing path. Then we've got to initiate the swing. So once I've worked out where it's going, I need a really high degree of coordination to initiate the timing of the swing using biomechanics, so hip, torso, shoulder, racket coming through. So we've got the visual side and the coordination side, and if those don't function at a sufficiently high level to play tennis in the way that you're trying to play it, because it's all relative, then it's basically going to max out your ability, and you might need to work on that. And obviously we've got good news there. There's a load of stuff that you can do to improve your visual processing and coordination, but I'll talk about it more in a moment. And then the final problem that you might have to work on is trying to watch the ball more efficiently through that contact point, because it's one of the big things for improving consistency. Now again, just like we said with timing, all the stuff that comes before it influences this. It's much easier to keep your head still on contact if you're meeting it out in front. If you're back there somewhere, it's a little bit trickier to do. But then in addition to all those other things, you've got making it a priority within your practice and focusing on it, because a lot of the time players are trying to fix so many different things. They're trying to do this and this and this and this, and then watch the ball onto the strings. And that's a lot of stuff. The chances are when the ball comes, you're going to forget all about watching the ball onto your strings. So you might need to make it a priority within your practice and only focus on watching the ball onto your strings. And if you only focus on that, it will dramatically improve your success rate at doing it. It's just obviously hard because there's normally multiple things that you're trying to think about, and that means you've got to basically go through them in order. But in terms of what you can do right now to improve your ball tracking with easy stuff, I've got a video that's going to show you some different eye training drills to train eye movements, because if your visual system and your eye movements aren't functioning at a sufficiently high level to track the ball, and ball tracking is hard, you're not going to be able to do it. So I've got a video down in the description for you to check out, so you can start working on that as well. Okay. We covered a lot of information. I went through it quickly, but I wanted to help you kind of understand how it all fits together. Now, what I would recommend is probably watching it again, then record yourself play, and then come back and kind of go through and analyze your video going, right, what was going wrong with my stroke. Yes, I didn't hit the ball that I wanted to, but what came before it that caused that? Starting at the start with preparation and kind of working your way through and trying out some of those resources that are in the description to work on some of the underlying problems. But if this is something you would like more help with, this is what I do with players. I use brain-based training, or I teach players kind of applied neuro drills to improve things like visual processing, so they can read where the ball's going faster and react faster, how to improve their coordination so they can use better technique and get more control on the shots, and how to improve things like focus and concentration, because it's all controlled by the brain, and there's some really cool stuff that we can do to help players improve. So if you'd like to learn more, I've created a masterclass. It's a free masterclass. I'll place the link up there and down there. It's going to give you a bit more information and kind of detail about how it works, and then it'll also talk about my program and how I work with players if that's something you're interested in, and the next steps that are involved. So that link is up there and down there if you would like to sign up. Otherwise, I hope you have enjoyed the video. Leave me a comment down below. Let me know what you thought.